This is Karen Tessier. She is missing from British Columbia, and somewhere out there, someone knows something. In this video, you will see her portrait take its shape. Every time Karen's portrait is seen, the chances of finding her grow stronger. That's why we are painting her portrait here, not just as art, but as a call for help. As this portrait takes shape, we ask you, please share it. Share her name, share her face, because you may hold the missing piece that could help bring Karen home. If you like art with a touch of mystery, you're in the right place. Welcome to Mrs. Arty. If you like our effort and content, please like and subscribe. It helps us keep going. If you know of any other missing person and you would like us to make a portrait, please let us know in the comment section. We hope our efforts will make a difference, however small they might be. Karen was the heartbeat of the Tessier family, a daughter, mother, grandmother, wife, and friend whose presence held them together. They remember her kindness, her laughter, the way she gave support without asking much in return. She belonged to the Fort Nelson First Nation community. Her roots, culture, and community mattered deeply to her. On July 9, 2024, Karen was last seen leaving her home in northern BC with a group of friends. 5 days later, her black Dodge Caravan was discovered, burned in a gravel pit in a rural area outside Fort Nelson. This shocking discovery rattled the family's sense of hope and raised urgent questions. Where had she gone? What happened in those days between her leaving and the vehicle being found? Her mother Elizabeth Burke has called out. Someone knows. Someone must know. She pleads for truth. Please do the right thing and talk, she said. Karen's family lives in what feels like an endless wait grief period beyond what words can express. They want answers. They want to understand, and most of all, they want Karen back. Karen's case is heartbreaking on its own, but it sits against innumerable tragic stories that has touched many indigenous families in BC. This is where we step back for a moment to talk about a specific highway in BC, Highway 16. It has been infamously named the Highway of Tears. Since the late 1960s, dozens of disappearances and murders have occurred in this area. The victims are mostly indigenous women and girls. Many disappearances are connected to hitchhiking because in remote areas along that highway, there has historically been very limited public transit. People, especially indigenous women who may not have reliable transport, often use hitchhiking or informal ride sharing to travel between communities. The remoteness of the area is a big factor. Some stretches have poor road conditions, extremely long distances between towns and services, spotty or no cell reception, and dense wilderness that complicates searches. Why does it matter? Well, the Highway of Tears tragedy is not just about individual cases. It reflects larger issues of marginalization of indigenous communities in BC and Canada. This includes underfunded infrastructure, inequalities in how disappearances, murders are investigated, and how violence against indigenous women has often been both ignored or downplayed. RCMP started a project called Project E-Pana, specifically to investigate certain cases of disappearances and murders along parts of Highway 16. There have been calls for better transit, better policing, more community support, improved search and response mechanisms, and so on. Some incremental changes have happened. For example, new bus routes have started in certain places to reduce reliance on hitchhiking. But the Highway of Tears is not just about disappearances. It represents a wider story, one that stretches back generations. For more than a century, from the 1800s till the last one closed in 1996, Canada operated a system of residential schools designed to forcibly assimilate indigenous children. These schools removed children from their families, sometimes by force. Once there, they were forbidden to speak their language or practice their culture. Many suffered abuse, hunger, and neglect. Thousands never returned home, buried in unmarked graves far from the parents who loved them. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission later called this system a form of cultural genocide, recognizing how it fractured families and left deep scars that still affect communities today. This history is not separate from the Highway of Tears. It is part of the same landscape of trauma. The legacy of residential schools created conditions of poverty, displacement, and vulnerability. It left many indigenous women and girls at greater risk of violence. And too often, their cases have been met with silence or slow responses when they go missing. Together, the history of residential schools and the tragedies of Highway of Tears form one continuous story. A story of systemic injustice, of families waiting for answers, and of a call for truth that has gone unanswered for far too long. Karen is not just another missing person. She is a beloved daughter, grandmother, and friend. She is the connective thread in her family, someone whose absence is keenly felt every day. Now, with her vehicle burned and her body of leads thin, the family and the RCMP believe people in the public may hold information that has not been shared. This portrait is more than just a painting, it's a message. When you share Karen's face, you help spread awareness. When you share her name, you help break the silence. If you know anything about what happened to Karen Tessier, especially those days between July 9 and the discovery of her burned van, please call the dedicated RCMP tip line at 250-561-8888. And if you don't have the information, you can still help. Share this video, share this portrait, spread her story. Because no one should vanish without a trace, and no family should be left waiting in silence.